accepting just like typo stuff, like if somebody's name is spelled wrong or something?
Yep, we'll take that, or we can correct that right afterward. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Take a motion at any time from anybody present at the last meeting to approve those minutes.
A motion?
Motion by Ms. Duzin. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Ms. Munoz. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Moving on to our next topic, update on attendance, which was one of our most popular topics from last year. I'll turn it over to Ms. Hurtado and Ms. Jimenez-Witten.
On the screen in a moment. Yep. So you can see our attendance percentage for the first 7 weeks of school. And you can see there we had a pretty big jump in the 5th week, which would have been after Labor Day. One of the things that we shared with at the last PTAC meeting was our new intervention process that Student Services and the Dean's Office was doing. And so this year we really were able to hit the ground running because we did it all last year and kind of worked out, how the team dynamic was going to work and how we were going to approach students who were not attending school. So in August and that first week in September, we were able to do a lot of home visits early on, and it really paid off. As you could see, by week 5, our attendance jumped up. The other thing, which I was looking back at the dates that might have impacted it, is that when we started calling and doing home visits in August for some of the kids that hadn't come in, a lot of them were doing childcare for their younger siblings because one of our feeder districts doesn't start school until after September. So by week 5, at that point, all districts are now back in session and, kids are in school. So I think that could have also impacted it. So I think a combination of us doing those home visits earlier this year and all the schools being back in session, we were able to see that big jump. And it's been pretty consistent since there. Does anybody have any questions? I know some of the people here were not necessarily here or maybe didn't hear too much about our intervention process. The 2 deans, so Ms. Hurtado leads one group, and then the other dean, Mr. Del Rio, leads the other group. So if anyone has any questions, Ms. Hurtado can kind of walk you through what our intervention process looks like.
How does this compare to last year?
In terms of attendance?
Yeah, for the same time frame. About a percentage. And what is our enrollment at the school?
Right about 2,050 students.
Oh.
One thing we're always looking for in students, this is where you're very helpful too. What are some of the ways that as we think about student attendance, and all of you obviously attend school every day, but thinking about some of the students who maybe struggle with it, what are some ways that as a school or as a community we can support those kids and those families who maybe struggle to get here? Don't need to raise your hand, Sebastian, go ahead.
Sorry, school environment, first, used to it. Everything okay? Okay. I just now am barely like learning about the outreach program and didn't know about that. So maybe if we can promote that and make sure that those resources are available for those who are needed, could be much more visible, much more presented, and given a spotlight. You know, make it more aware for the whole student body than to those who, you know, are just the ones struggling, because it could affect anyone, in my opinion.
We know our kids are they calling in sick, or they have anxiety, or like what do we know, like what's the underlying, is it transportation, they can't get up on time?
So it's like multiple reasons. So sometimes we have the most likely is that they're not getting called in. So we have just like unexcused, or they show up one day and then we don't see them again. And so that's why the home visits are so helpful, because then we can come to the house and find them, because like either we haven't been able to get a hold of their parents. We'll even call like the cell phones. We call every number that we find. So like then our next resort is like, let's do a home visit and see what's going on. Why is the student not coming? A lot of times we do see a lot of that anxiety piece of like the social anxiety of being in a big building or coming back to school, because that transition's like pretty big. And then the longer students are out, the harder it is to get them back in. We have students where it's like lack of motivation, or we have students who come in really late in the day because they can't get up in the mornings, and parents are already working at that point. So there's nobody really like waking them up in time to say like, okay, time to go to school. And parents are thinking, oh, my child's at school, and really they're at home sleeping.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I think what's cool about the process of including all the team members is that we're able to figure out what the underlying factors are. So like, is it emotional health? Is it like behavioral? Like, what is it really coming down to? And then like having multiple people working with the student, we can kind of figure out who's going to be the better support for them. Yeah.
I would also like to add on that some of it is also part of the call-in. There's also like a flaw, because I was a victim of this. I shouldn't say victim because it's not that big. My mom always calls me when I'm absent or something, but you know, the voice or like the machine or the system used is not, like, it's only in English, and my mom being a English speaker, she calls in and then she says that she pleads my case, and then many times I've been called like unexcused or unabsent because it just didn't go through as like the system ordered to. So like I've been called absent for school, but it's just, it still marks me under absent. So maybe we can make like a better automated system, you know, with suited for the majority, you know, English, Spanish, and other languages.
So it is in Spanish and English, but I think like when you first call, there's like you have to pick a certain number for it to be in Spanish. So maybe we have these like little attendance magnets that we used at some point. I don't know if we made them this year, but maybe on there we can put what number to push. Like as soon as you call, press 9, and then it automatically makes it in Spanish, because I do think you have to listen to it for a while before it tells you, you know, to listen to it in Spanish, press whatever. And then because once they get directly connected to the attendance line, that one is in Spanish.
Yeah, and then the person taking the messages down does speak Spanish. So hopefully, like, even if like they don't, they can't follow they can like leave the message, even if it's in Spanish, we should be able to have someone.
School districts sometimes have limited allocation of phone lines and whatnot, but would it be possible to have 2 attendance lines? One that, from the get-go, when you call in, the message is in Spanish, and then one that's in English?
Or like a direct line?
Like a direct line, 2 different phone numbers. And then you could publicize that on everything in Spanish. You might just capture more people from the onset that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we could definitely look into that. That's a good idea.
From the demographics of the students that are not attending or struggling to attend, do you find it's a certain grade? You know, does it tend to be more freshmen? Or
I feel like
Like it's
early
the
on.
bookends.
Yes.
Freshmen and seniors.
Yes. I was gonna say like the freshmen and then the seniors who are feeling like, oh, like that lack of motivation senior year for the ones who maybe are credit deficient or struggling a little bit more. It's harder to keep them motivated to still come back. And the freshmen where they're like, I have nothing to lose yet, you know, like
Yeah.
I still have many years to go. So yeah. And then like the freshmen, the challenge with that is we don't know them. The
Yes.
seniors, at this point, like we've already worked with them, we know who they are, and we kind of like, we start off the year contacting them right away versus the freshmen where we're trying to get to know them and identify who they are. So that one's.
Well, I do have to compliment having my daughter as a freshman. The partnership and collaboration between Lehman and the high school, having days here where they got to come and see the school, I think was very helpful. And starting that collaboration in 8th grade, I think is really important. And you're right, it's a huge transition from 8th grade to freshman year. And so even if there's something socially at the beginning of the year, maybe even before school starts for incoming freshmen, you know, they'll know other people, but one of the things, it's nice to get to know the other students that will be there in their class. And so just to build community, because I think that really helps. And, you know, when you don't see so-and-so at school, you begin to wonder. And so that positive peer pressure can help, and we can use that to our advantage as well.
Point, and even like connecting with new people, right? So if they're coming
And
and
parents.
they don't, yes.
Connecting with one another, because I know I was fairly involved through the elementary school district, and I can't tell you how many times I had a parent reach out to me saying, what's the date of this? Being on PTO there, and, you know, parents reach out to parents before they reach out to the school, rightly or wrongly. So if we can, as incoming freshman parents, or even sophomore, junior, senior, if we can begin to bond, because at this age, we're less and less involved in our children's lives, but we almost need to be more involved than ever. You know, not from a helicoptering standpoint, but just building community so we can all lift each other up.
So you're thinking like a social event that would be for the kids and the parents?
Yeah,
So like a
yeah.
family,
Yeah.
freshman families or
Yeah.
incoming freshmen?
Yeah.
Kind of in the summer, like before the
Right,
start of
like,
school year.
and I know that's a struggle. You've got holidays and, you know, yeah, but yes, before school actually starts. I did like the idea of the bridge program. I thought that was a nice opportunity. I don't know what the attendance on that was in comparison.
Every year it grows.
That's great.
80.
No, we had
No,
over
more.
100
Over
this
100
year.
this time? Yeah.
About a fifth of the incoming freshmen
That's
attended
wonderful.
Bridge.
Yeah, congratulations. But yeah, if we can build the social community coming in, I think that would be helpful.
Before we move on, I do want to really commend Ms. Jimenez-Witten, Mr. Tato, and the entire student services team. This really does reflect positive growth. As you know, this has been one of the biggest challenges for every high school in the country. Our school report card data will come out at the end of October, like every school in Illinois. And when we looked at last year's data, there were, on average in the state of Illinois, it was almost 40% of 12th graders were chronically absent or truant in the state of Illinois. So to see this growth as we incrementally move our way back to what we were before the pandemic is really positive. And it's been a lot of hard work from a lot of people. So thank you for all that work. And we are open to ideas and suggestions about how to continue to improve. So,
Well, and for
Ms.
the benefit
Sladek?
of the people who weren't here, I'm sorry, you want to
Go ahead, go ahead.
If I recall correctly, when you shared this data last time and you shared the data of neighboring school districts, we were actually exceeding in attendance, if I remember correctly, compared to like, Wheaton North and some of the other like schools near us. So
Yeah, our chronically truant kids, even though it's bad, it was better
Better
than most schools in this area. But, you know, we want to stay focused on like our own and continue to grow. So it's nice to see that even though our numbers were better than others, that we're still, you know, making the growth in-house.
I just want to add that I think the teachers and Dr. Dwyer have a lot to do with the attendance, because my own son noticed that like every day you're outside, he's like, Mom, even if it's cold, he's out there like saying hi to students. And there's just such a good atmosphere here. We've been so happy, and he's loved every teacher since day one, and he just feels really, really welcome. So I think that 93% is like the teachers and the staff, like
Yeah.
just make kids feel like they want to be here. And I wish those other kids who don't quite feel connected could make those connections. But I do think that the 93% is largely due to how the connections and how the kids feel when they're here.
Keep working on it. Ms. Sladek, you had something?
Yeah, I was going to ask, because I don't remember. I know it was discussed at the last meeting, the issue with the feeder schools starting later. Is that a typical annual issue, or what? I feel like this was kind of an outlier.
Yeah, no, and I want to commend all of our associate districts, 25, 34, 33. District 33 is doing a great job with some really big construction projects. They have one more year, I believe, am I right, Ms. Munoz? One more year, and then they should have air conditioning in all the buildings and a few other improvements. And we've already talked that once next year's passed, we really want to get, maybe not completely identical, but aligned on the important dates and the breaks for our respective calendars. 25 and 34 are there with us and will be, and then as soon as those construction projects are over, we'll be right back there with everybody.
So with that in mind, are there any community resources that we can research to be prepared so that we don't have such a low attendance those first few weeks, knowing that the feeder schools are starting later? I don't know what is out there, but I'm sure we can find something, whether it's if it's, you know, free childcare, or if there are, you know, families who do, you know, in-home childcare that are willing to take in a few extra kids so that our students can come to school on, you know, those first few weeks. Just something that we can research in preparation.
Yeah, maybe push that out in the summer in preparation. That's fantastic, absolutely. All right. Anything else on attendance? Okay. At our next meeting, we will have comparative data for the state as well as the area that'll be released by the State Board of Education. So we'll look at that data again, and hopefully as we'll be closer to the end of the year and do a little bit more analysis on how well our strategies have worked. I want to move on to our next agenda item, which is our cultural heritage celebrations. Ms. Witten, I know you wanted to take us through some ideas and some topics of discussion.
Yes, so as most of you probably know, we have two interim superintendents this school year, and so obviously there's been a lot for them to learn about our school culture and dynamics. And so one of the things that they had brought to our attention was, what are we doing for Hispanic Heritage Month with having such a large population here? And so a few of administrators started to share that typically what we do is different clubs will do different activities. They'll do stuff in social studies. Everything was kind of on a smaller scale, on a personal level, and basically feeding off of what the students in that club or organization or class kind of wanted to do. And I think a point that they were making is that's great for in here, but people who are not in here, so the teachers and the kids, everyone on the outside doesn't see what we're doing to celebrate not just this month, but all the other, months when we want to celebrate other heritages as well. No one on the outside knows what we're doing. So how do we do that? So we try to do a couple of things that were a little bit broader this month or this past month. And so I wanted to just kind of get a feel for what everyone maybe some ideas that you have on balancing that, because I think one thing that we pride ourselves with here at the high school is that we're not about the show. We're about the real meaningful connections with the kids. And sometimes that can be to our detriment because then on the outside it looks like we're not doing anything or we don't care, but have a conversation with a kid and it's a different story. So I want us to find a balance between the two where we, you know, from the outside looking in, you can see that we care about kids, that we care about, you know, making everyone feel included and celebrated here, but in a way that still makes it feel authentic. So I thought this would be a good group to kind of talk about your perspective for the parents on the outside-ish. And then obviously for the staff and the students that are in here, yeah, just some feedback.
It'd be like an event that we host, like an after school or just come to the Bishop Gym. I don't know,
Like a
just
cultural event kind of
yeah,
thing?
like a cultural event, kind of.
So when you think about that, are we thinking like we have a Hispanic Heritage event during that month and then like during Black History Month we have one for that? Or I know some districts will do one big cultural event and it's all of the cultures and they'll pick, you know, a random month to celebrate all of them. Like what do you think?
All of them at the same time. Yeah, to maybe
I was thinking,
off event, start of the school year.
Okay.
Often at the end of the year, just overall show appreciation. Us as a community, this has been a great year.
I was just gonna say have an event during Hispanic Heritage Month and then Black History Month, just so they get their event dedicated, you know, to that. As long as you're celebrating it somehow, it'd be nice.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, especially for Hispanic Heritage Month in our community, I think that there are so many distinct cultures to celebrate within that month because we obviously have a lot of, you know, students that would want to celebrate their Mexican culture, but we also have Venezuelan culture and Colombian culture and Peruvian culture. And so I think that, you know, that one can get so big on its own to make sure that we're recognizing everyone that, yeah, kind of deserves its own month.
You know, last night, District 25 had they call it multilingual night. Obviously, it's a way smaller school and school district, but, you know, they do an event like that every year. And I think the nicest thing about it, and it kind of ties back into some of these concerns about attendance and engagement and other things, is that they offer a lot of information on that evening to parents to help educate them on what resources are available. So it could be something that could celebrate foods and could celebrate, you know, all kinds of traditions and things, but also then allow your committees and outreach people to have tables and things where they're available to answer questions and just educate people on what types of resources there are available.
Did anyone attend the Hot Cheeto Guy event this
I did.
year? Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So
Yeah, it was great. And honestly, I went to school the next day with my hot Cheetos, and I was the most popular person. I said, I met this guy last night. And they were like, you did? We love hot Cheetos. I thought that was fantastic. That was a great event.
yeah, it was really cool. And so when we reached out to him, I intentionally wanted to have him come in September because that was obviously Hispanic Heritage Month, the start of it. And so I thought it would be really cool to have someone like him come in. And then we were just going to do that as a standalone option. And then I kind of thought the same thing, while we have people here for this exciting event, let's have some community partners come in. So we did a community fair ahead of time. And it was so cool to see all of these different organizations in our building and people interacting. And they had so many resources and they had so many goodies for families. Everyone walked out with a bag full of stuff. And so I really would like to try and do that a few times throughout the year. If you're already coming here for something, here they are, because I can give you a piece of paper with all of the resources, but it's just, hits different when you can actually have a conversation or put like a face with that organization.
Yeah, and I know like at the District 25, when they even have like the libraries come in and help people sign up for library cards and stuff like that. So it's a lot of different resources that are available that people might not otherwise access.
Does the community high school have a ballet folklorico like the Lehman? Do they have that here? Could they perform or mariachi? Like, you know, that could draw parents in because they want to go see their kids perform. I think I love going to see that at Lehman.
As a ex ballet folklorico member, I could vouch for you and say many people do come to the shows at Lehman and really enjoy, and like everybody, they all just say like, wow, like I've never really viewed that part of the culture or never really thought they would have so much beauty into this art or dedication for it, because trust me, we were dedicated. It was strict, and you know, the effort we put, and it also equaled the amount of like love and appreciation we had it. So I guess like by showcasing our talents and our arts in many different cultures, we can showcase that, you know, we're not just like a Spanish speaking language country, or I don't know, a bread baking country, you know, like we're more than that, and we can really express through many different things, and like being able to show that to across like a full body of the community is just enough to really relieve stigma and like stereotypes. And I think it's a good idea that we can do more events connecting people, like not Hands Across America type of events, but like, you know, like events that will really engage with all ages and would really provide a good time and memories for people.
Yeah, it'd be a cool connection even to have the Lehman group with the community high school group, because I know that group at Lehman, they're performing all the time, and it's so impressive to me. Like, you know, I am just blown away by them. So I think I would love to see that continue in high school, even if they performed at the football game, like on a September, you know, on one of the games then during halftime. Like, why not during Hispanic Heritage Month? Like, have a special halftime show, you know.
The students from District 33 and 94 did perform on our opening day of school for our staff. That was one of the performances that we had. It was great. It was very well enjoyed. Other ideas and areas,
Society
please.
has their Relay for Life that they're going to be doing this year. Those events are typically like huge community events that draw lots of people. So maybe piggybacking with them and saying, hey, how can we?
When are they doing it?
I believe it's in April.
It's April 19th.
Are you guys doing it outside or inside?
I think we're planning to do it on the stadium outside.
Okay.
It's like
Cool,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure Miss Fireman, like if this was brought in, like she would be really interested
Oh, yeah.
in this, for sure, because we just want to get as much people involved with that event, and it's supposed to be like the whole like community as well. So like that could also be like another opportunity to showcase the culture as well.
Yeah, these are good ideas and things that we can just kind of like blend better with some of our parent events that we already have.
We have a staff committee as well, too, that this is going to be a topic of conversation, and we continue to do it deeply and authentically, and that's what we're committed to doing. I want to move on to the next one, and this is one where students especially, I really want you to dig in. So bear with me for a minute while I lay this out, and I will completely own that this is my topic. This is one that I really wanted to bring forward, and I wanted to talk through. So I'm in my 20th year in education right now, and I remember very vividly, and those of you educators who were in the profession around 2010, 2012, in that window, that was a time, and I wasn't here obviously, but as educators, we firmly lost the cell phone war. The iPhone was out, smartphones were everywhere, and it became really, really difficult at schools to keep those contained. 2007, it was not even allowed on campus, and then, okay, on campus, but in your locker. Okay, in your backpack, but not out during that. And it became such a difficulty at every high school. Confiscating phones became not just hard to do with the students, but parents would be irate when that would happen. So really schools everywhere had to really move away from that. When I say schools, I mean high schools in particular, because it's what we are. And at the time, we decided it's a tool. We need to learn how to incorporate it into education. We need to be better about finding opportunities for appropriate use. Cell phones are everywhere. Let's teach them how to use it like adults, and let's accept the reality of the world. And we've done that. Something has shifted, though, and there are two things that really stand out to me. One is during COVID, when students came back from COVID, they were glued to their phones in a way that we just hadn't seen. They definitely always had them on them and near them, and they would come out occasionally before COVID, after COVID, and that especially in that fall of 2021, it was eerie. It was eerie for us as a school to see that. Another thing that has happened is there's now scientific data, peer-reviewed studies connecting changes in social emotional well-being for teenagers and linkage to screen time and social media usage. Because what happened from 2010 to now that didn't exist before was social media became A, much bigger, and B, it is now on your phone. You used to have to log into a computer and do it. It's very different now. So I started a conversation with our administrative team, and I wanted to bring the same conversation to this group here. I am not naive. I am not foolish enough to think that I can tell 2,050 kids, no cell phones out the entire day. That's not going to work. We're going to create more conflict. And the first rule in school leadership, don't make a rule you can't enforce. And I don't want to do that. But I do see the connections. We all see it now. We see this. And then we see the rise in anxiety and depression and bad sleep habits and a variety of other things linked to cell phone usage. So I am ready to hear some ideas, and kids, this is where you are more informative than anybody else in this room, about strategies and things that we can do as a school, and not just with our current students, but with our future students as well, to break some of those habits before they form. What are things that we can do and conversations we can have to start to really address this in a meaningful way, knowing that just a blanket policy might not be the most effective way to deal with that. So I want to open it up knowing that this is in some ways the third rail of high school leadership, but I think it's an important conversation to have.
You mean like people being like on their phones during class, or like what it has to do with like their mental health instead?
Yes. So all of it. And here's what I mean by that, Gina. It's a great question. So, and I will say it does vary from class to class. We do allow staff to, they can set the expectation and the standard within their classroom. That's our school procedure and policy. And some staff are very good at, you come in, that phone goes away. Ms. Sladek, I know you've got cell phone jails at every table, and those phone, Sebastian has a knowing nod. And some staff are really good at it, and we've had professional development as a staff, and we support any strategies, for, hey, phone's gonna go away now, or hey, okay, now you can have them out for this period of time. But I also mean in the hallways, when instead of talking to one another, you're like this, or on buses to and from events or to and from school, or at other social times, even in the cafeteria. Boy, I'd say about 40% of kids are glued to that phone during that time. And that's definitely having an impact on one's well-being. I ask every senior when I visit their den, take out your phone, swipe to the right, tell me what your average screen time usage is. And it is anywhere from 4 hours to 9 hours a day, which is an incredible amount. So I really want to have that conversation. So I hope that answers it. Okay. Go ahead, Jaden.
Something that I feel that helps a lot for class time when you're on your phone is like, for example, the phone jail. I feel like once, because I used to be in her classroom, once you saw like someone was like, okay, phone, I feel like students see it as, okay, my teacher's really serious, I need to like be strict on it, because when you saw that like someone was getting their phone taken away, I feel like it would help me, as in like, okay, I shouldn't have my phone here, because the teacher's gonna take my phone away. And my math teacher also has her phone jail. So I feel like that's really helpful. Helpful because, well, if they take your phone away, you'll pay attention. But I agree with teachers having phone jails, and it really does help a lot.
A little closer. Yep.
I know that in like the music department, like we have phone daycares where like they don't want to call it jail, but like phone daycares for like sorry, where like once we get in, we'll take it's mandatory to like all. That's how she'll like take participation points as well. Like we each get a number of. Though most students like don't like the idea, it is beneficial.
Good.
Yeah, I feel like in most of my classes, people aren't on their phones when we're doing engaging activities. Other than like taking notes out on a piece of paper, I see people take out their phone instead of doing notes. But when we're doing something that like actually matters, like in math, every day when we learn what, I'm in calculus, so like no one has their phone out because we have to learn what we're doing. But like when we're doing homework, like if we get homework time, I see a lot of kids take out their phone. But if we're doing like engaging activities and like stuff we need to know, that's when kids put their phones away, at least in my classes.
Yeah, I feel like when teachers make us do assignments as groups, that helps us a lot because we need to talk with one another, so we won't be allowed to be on our phone. And I feel like when teachers do stuff like group partner work, it helps develop a friendship with people that you don't know from your classroom. So that can also help out with the hallway thing that you said, that a big reason they're on their phones is because they don't really talk to people. So when teachers do that they assign different groups, that can slowly develop a friendship, and it could become less of a problem. Like they'll have people to talk to in the hallways.
That's at lunch too. Like most of the kids who are on their phone are either like sitting by themselves or with a few friends. But like if you have a lunch period with a lot of people, like my lunch period, we have like a big table. I never bring out my phone during that, and we just be talking the whole time.
Yeah, we'd rather have you be disruptive with each other than disruptive on your phone. It's much happier for us to witness that. So I am hearing about the structure, the instructional activities that can help with that usage within class. But I don't want to just talk about how do we limit it in the 46 minutes per period we have you here, and then you go home and you're on that phone 4, 5, 6 hours. I think that still contributes to the same problem. What are some things that we can think about and talk about, some strategies to limit the usage overall, knowing that that big number, that big amount of time has a negative impact on a student's well-being?
One thing that comes to mind is I had the honor of recently talking with parents over really the impact of the phone in the home and overall healthy boundaries as well as healthy habits, and also connecting it to a culture at home. And a lot of light bulbs went off in the room. I know that parents were not hearing this for the first time, but I do think that when you make the connection to teaching your child to eat healthy, because all the benefits of eating healthy or working out or staying physical, active through the winter months, I think those are conversations just as important as the technology piece to it. And I also think that, as somebody else said it in the room, I think taking advantage of the time that you have with parents, the FaceTime with parents, and then definitely I know that Dr. Dwyer, you and Ms. Whitten went to curriculum night, I think, at Lehman. So definitely this is a partner effort. This is an epidemic. And I think that the more that we are speaking the same language, I really do feel that we have to make it easy for parents to kind of apply these changes early on And I do think that parent partnership is essential in this perspective because, again, I do feel as we were talking through like the academic impact of going to sleep late, of not doing your homework, of not having the mind shift from, your after school activity to then coming home and sitting at a desk and be mentally ready and prepared to do your homework. I mean, there is a lot of disconnect, and I do think that we all live in a really busy time where we all have multiple hats that we wear, but I really do feel that a lot of parents don't necessarily see the connections. They know the connections, but when it's in front of you, we used a slideshow presentation during these parent presentations, and again, it really was also making a point to say that you model those behaviors as well. If I'm sitting at a table eating dinner and that's not a time where I ensure that every single person at my table is not on a phone or on a device, I missed my window, because for a lot of us, that is the only time that we're going to connect with our child during the day. So again, a lot of those light bulbs, I think that those seem small, were really big, and parents really gained a perspective of like, again, those healthy habits that really do make a difference when you're in kindergarten and preschool all the way through a senior in high school.
That's a good point. It starts well before they get to high school. For students, when I visit the dens and I talk with seniors about the cell phone usage and they share that number, that average hours per day, they all look at me and they know that's too much. But I don't know if they know what to do. So I do want to ask, this is my last question I have, and I'm going to put the kids on the spot. What are some things that strategies we could share, things that you could do to lessen that cell phone usage, to go from 6 hours to 3 hours or 3 to 2?
Like an incentive within dens, like a class competition, like if you have under X amount of hours, like you get
like the den average.
like a den average of like different of like our
Den with the
collective
lowest
hours.
average.
Yeah, I'm not a student, but that was exactly what I was thinking, and I'm glad you said it. I'm like, oh, what if you did a den competition? But I also thought to bring that education piece that you talked about, maybe bringing in your social work team who are experts in the social emotional learning, and have all the kids do a pre-test of, in the past week, how many times have you felt stressed or anxious, or on a scale of 1 to 10, and then do that competition for a week, whatever it is, with some sort of incentive, and then have everybody take a post test at the end of that week, comparing like, hey, this is how we feel having not spent as much time on our phones for a week, or whatever the time frame is, and then if there's good data from that, present it back to them. Be like, hey guys, this is where you were pre, and this is where you are now. Look at the impact.
I feel like the data for that for like the first week would actually go up, but like over time, like a long period of time, it would go down. But like after the first week without my phone, I would feel more stressed than I was before, because I can't see what's going on. But over a long period of time, I could see that going down eventually.
Or even just like your engagement with your family or your friends in other ways.
Or like even along with that, while they're in den, also learning strategies or other replacement behaviors. Like, okay, if you're not on your phone, what do you have more time for? And like taking advantage of just kind of hitting them from all different angles.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought as she was mentioning it, I was writing out blackout challenge, like on my paper. Like it'd be perfect for that. Great idea.
That could be, well, because in den you have 2 lessons a week, right? So those 2 lessons could lesson days could be on something like that. I know I have a daughter in middle school, and right before we went in, we had like an orientation, and there was a session from their SRO and their assistant principal that talked about like healthy phone usage. And the school there was like, middle schoolers should not have social media. And I was like, well, there you have it. They said you can't have it. And then it's like, I don't think you should have it. Your school doesn't think you should have it. We're all on the same page kind of thing. So I guess on my end, for the parents, what does that look like? What are parents interested in having that? Because we see 2 things in the dean's office. One is, well, they want us to take the kid's phone because they don't want their kids to be mad at them. Or, no, you cannot take my kid's phone I need them to have their phone. That's not your responsibility. That's my responsibility. So we have those two barriers. And so how do we have two opposite ends of the spectrum. So how do we facilitate that for parents, like education or conversation?
I am not sure, but I'm in the camp that I'd rather my son and have his phone in his backpack, and I just think cell phones are just terrible for kids. So I'm not sure of the answer, but I would always back up the school and whatever they do. I don't know how many parents. But I wanted to say, what about like creating like posters or something, like the benefits to decreasing social media use, cell phone use, because they talk about how, back when they were telling kids don't smoke cigarettes, you can't say to a kid, you're gonna get cancer in 30 years. They have to look at the immediate detriment to it. Like you're gonna get, yellow teeth and smelly fingers, like something they can immediately see. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off topic, but just something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of posters hanging in our building.
But they're
for
so busy
students.
looking at their phones, it's hard to get.
So I just wondered, if we make posters, how effective is that? So we have Safe to Help and we have other mental health resources and we have posters all over the place. But Ms. Hurtado, myself, our SRO, social worker, we go in and we talk to all of the dens about it also. So we have the signage, we talk to them. Then they have 2 follow-up lessons. So now they've heard it 3 times. And sometimes we talk to the kids and be like, well, remember when we talked to you about, and they're like, no. Okay, well, do you remember in your den time? No. So I'm just wondering from the student's perspective, what hits home more? Is it the conversation, the den lesson? Is it the posters? Is it the combination? What's more impactful?
Could we try to engage the students through social media? Hey, put your phone down. The We Go activities Instagram. Could one of the stories be from one of the National Honor Society kids or somebody who's a leader in the school? Just posting a story hey, let's all put our phones down for the next hour. I mean, we have to, they like each other and they like social media. They don't want adults telling them, put your phone down, because I get made fun of for that all the time. It does not, it doesn't really, I can tell my son to do it and he will because he's compliant. But I think if we try to engage them in what they like and see if the kids can kind of encourage each other, the people here, let's put our phones down for the next hour, or make it a thing. The kids here have a lot of good school spirit. So I feel like I could see them having whatever, phone week, and then it's the den challenge, and it's a spirit. There's something different each day, and I don't know, the messages coming from each other.
I like that. And back to your question too, Mr. Tato, I'm wondering, students, give me just a roundabout, at what age did you first start using social media on your own account?
I would say 6th grade.
6th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so about middle school. And again, the data on this has changed in the last just couple of years. Parents, my question for you would be, if as a school, if you had a middle schooler and you heard from the high school, hey, we don't think your kid needs to have any social media until 17, how would that go over in your respective homes with your respective kids?
Well, I have a sophomore and a junior, and of my 2 children, my junior has self-elected to have no social media. To this day, she does not have a single social media account. And those of you who know her, she's incredibly enriched, she's incredibly bright, she doesn't feel like she's missing out on anything in the world. And I have another child who is addicted to social media, and the rule in my house always was, if that social media app or platform has an age limit, you cannot have that until that, if you have to lie about your age, you can't have it, was always my rule. And most of them are 13. And that child stayed up till midnight on the eve of her 13th birthday and downloaded Snapchat and has never gone back. Now, again, though, that goes back to parenting in the home. We have really strict rules about, okay, you can do that, but not past a certain time on weekdays and a certain time on weeknights and stuff. So I do think it does take a lot of gumption in your home, because it's hard to stand up to your kid when everybody else is doing it. And it does seem to be something that, for the most part, everybody else is doing. So I don't know, but I think stronger messages can't hurt. People are going to listen or they're not.
One of the challenges, I didn't want my son to have Snapchat when he first started as a freshman, but the band, like the way the drum line communicated was through Snapchat. And he's like, Mom, I have to have it because I'm not going to know what time I have to be at school. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like, you should know what time you have to be at school. And the teacher would say what time they have to be there, but drumline was different because they have extra things. So he's like, I have to have Snapchat. But then he said he doesn't want his sister having it. So it makes me realize that he's probably seeing some stuff that he doesn't want his younger sister to be on Snapchat. But I didn't know. I just had to let him, I felt like I had to let him do it because he didn't know how else he could find out about what was going on. So I think my middle schooler does not have any social media, but freshman year, first day of band camp, he got Snapchat. And I was like, well, I lost that battle on day one.
Well, and I
I
think
realize
that's
that we're part of the problem. We meet the kids where they are, and
Yeah.
they're on social media, so now we have a presence on
Yeah.
social media. So I understand the interwoven complexity
Yeah.
of this messaging.
And sport perspectives, there are other options. Like, I know the volleyball team has adjusted, and I don't know if that's specifically for Lauren or not, but you guys do everything through, what's the other app that you guys use?
Instagram.
GroupMe. Yeah, GroupMe.
Oh, GroupMe.
Yeah, GroupMe.
Yeah, we text on
And,
there.
You know, so even if the school said, hey guys, if you're a coach or a committee head or whatever, I don't want you creating Snapchat groups with your teams. Now, if kids are going to do that on their own, there's not going to be a lot you can do about it. But anything that a coach or an administrator or a teacher or anybody is involved in can go through other platforms like GroupMe that are a lot safer and aren't technically social media platforms.
So this will be something we revisit at our next meeting in the spring, and something that we'll be talking about as a staff, and I'm going to continue talking about with the student body. But I do think what I'm hearing, and I hope I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, it is a concern. We've hit a tipping point where 10 years ago in my career, it was the smart thing for schools to do. We had to do it to move forward. But something has changed, and I do think it's the mix of the cell phone with social media. It's right there in the pocket. So I want to continue it. Complicated topic. So I appreciate everybody's input, and it'll be one that we want to get more info on. But I just felt like at this point, I felt like we were at a point as a school where we couldn't just keep doing business as usual. It requires a dialogue. One of the tipping points for me was I also have an 8th grader at home, like Miss Winton, and he is the last 8th grader in the entire city to not have a cell phone, as he reminds me. And when I drive him and his friends around, it used to be playful banter and lots of fun in the back seat of the car, and now it's just kids looking at screens, and they're 12 and 13, and that's not fun. Yes, Ms.
One
Boyd.
last comment. I think the hard thing that we're all fighting is because with drunk driving, we can see what happens. We can see what happens with texting and driving. We can see what happens with poor nutrition. But the challenge of being on your phone, you don't see what's going to happen to you. And we don't have somebody who can come, even a peer, and talk to the students and say, if you do this, this is possibly the negative consequence. And I think, that's part of it because, and even, us as adults, sometimes we have our faces in the phone too often. And the consequences, although they're great, they're not right in front of our faces as the phone is. And so that's, I think, our biggest challenge as parents as
We do have some pretty scary things that have happened on social media to students in this building every
I'm sure.
year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow. Which is why it's easy for me to hold the line for my kid, because I can see that stuff. But I think a lot of parents don't even know those little loopholes. So we could share some of
maybe
those stories
maybe
with
that's
parents and
part of-
kids.
To have those stories in a respectful way.
Yeah.
But to say, this is what's happening, this is what we're doing to each other, and it doesn't,
Yeah.
and maybe that's, you kind of have to go right to the core
Yeah.
of.
kind of create that education piece
Yeah,
of like,
a real
yeah.
truthful conversation, that it's not,
because I know it's like we talk about the dangers of social media, but there's no, you're right, like there's no connection to what actually happened to someone I know, right? So like being able to bring in real stories and like sharing that and kind of showing how having, because a lot of like what we're saying is like we do see in the dean's office, it's like, oh, like so-and-so is bullying me or this is happening, and then we look into it and there's like a lot going on, but it's like this person's saying this person is saying that, and then you don't escape it. You're constantly like, you leave school, you go home, it's still in your face. So like, but like not necessarily sharing that with parents, right? Parents aren't aware that that's what's going on with their kids. So like, we just found out because someone else saw it, right? So I think being able to tell parents that like, this is actually happening to your kids, and like, this is how you can check, and this is how you can have conversations with them, and just kind of giving that well-rounded support around it.
It's really important.
Ms. Sladek, you want?
That can be that stronger message that Ms. Dusing was talking about, just putting stronger messages out there, putting stories, making them anonymous, confidential, obviously, not sharing names or anything, but giving those examples that are close to home, that are within our school. This is what's happening to our students. And to your point, I feel like students or teenagers do kind of sense that, the bullying and the comments and the videos that they see on TikTok and everything does give them a, lower sense of esteem and not as strong of mental health as they could have otherwise. But while they sense it, they can't like put their finger on, why or exactly how, like, concrete examples. But that's something that we can work with those stronger messages. And again, maybe it's something that we do in DEN as a DEN lesson and related to those challenges. Maybe it's something that like our journalism classes can work on and put out videos in that way. Or maybe back to an idea that was brought up last year, I think it was Ms. Dusing, maybe a Fun Friday, video. Make those Fun Friday videos something more of serious topics, because I think everybody loves watching those videos, and they do see them on social media after the fact, but still use it for good, right?
Good. Yeah, no easy answers, but I think important conversations to be having. So I appreciate it, and let's keep this topic on the agenda. I want to go on to our next agenda topic, which is one from last year that we wanted to continue to discuss as well. Parent strategies and structures for assisting in school outreach. So I know Mr. Tato and Ms. Winton, you had some things we talked about before and some other ideas I know we want to try to get on the table as well.
Yeah, so I think at our last meeting, we talked about having a needs assessment to send out to parents. And I know when we brought it up, some of the parents here said, yeah, we'd be willing to help push that out. So we just kind of wanted to bring that back up and see if that's something that's still important to everyone. And then we think if it would be really great to have parent input, especially from you parents that are here at PTAC, of like creating this needs assessment to determine like what is it that we want included in the survey, how to push it out, how to get more people to answer that, and then that way we can provide more of that like parent engagement. So is that something that is still important, something that you guys would be open to being a part of and like meeting with us and creating that? And so it would probably have to be, I mean, the hope would be that we could meet maybe before our next PTAC meeting, send that survey out, and then be able to share that data at our next meeting.
And as I think everyone's aware too, we are in the midst of a search for a new superintendent, and hopefully either shortly before or shortly after the first of the year, there would be that person named. And I think it would be great timing to have that person come alongside this group to identify some critical questions and areas. And then that information can really help guide our new district leader as well too. So I think we could really line this up and find some synergy.
Yeah, so I mean, to set that up, it could be like a Zoom meeting, it could be an in-person meeting, but I think it'd be really helpful to get your input on what to include in that survey as parents and what's the best way to really get that message across. Thoughts on that or questions with that? Okay.
And as a reminder too, from our last meeting, the window isn't open yet, but when the 5 essentials comes open, I believe right after the first of the year, somewhere in there. We would like to use this group to help get as many parents to answer that, so we could finally have that data. We have to get over 20% of our families to answer, and to date, we struggle to get that many to answer it.
That's why this idea came from it, because we never get to see the 5 essential survey. So any parent that does fill it out, we don't know what they filled it out because we don't get enough. So we figured if we kind of create our own essentially the 5 essential survey for ourselves and have the parents push it out and help us. Yeah, is it going to be electronic? Is it going to be paper and electronic? Where are we going to pass it out? And maybe if it comes specifically from other parents, then we can really get some information on what parents need, what parents want at this level. Because, yeah, I think most parents are starting to back off from their kids, but your kids need you more in like a very unique way at this age, so.
Can we call it essentially the 5 essentials?
Yes.
I like that.
Talking about that 5 essentials, I feel like one of the things that we talked about were like ways to get more response to that. Have you guys thought any more about like a postcard with a QR code or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so that's what we were thinking. We could like meet sometime in January, February before it actually opens up, create our own that we're going to do internally, and then also talk about that 5 essential survey and see how we can push it out and how we can kind of partner with this group to try and get more parents to fill it out.
Maybe you could like tell students in DEN class to like tell their parents to fill this out and like help with whatever it helps.
Oh, yeah.
And we even talked about stuff like if your parents do it and you bring in a screenshot that it was completed, that there would be like
Another
incentives
contest
for that. and
We'll
stuff
raffle
like
something
that.
for
Yeah.
you. Yep. Yeah, we're all in on that. It's the window's not for a few more months, and it's more of a working conversation. So yeah, let Janet or Veronica know on the way out, and we'll bring that group together.
Is that something we could also put on the website, like that first kind of, I think that was also mentioned last year as well with the update?
Yeah, we do when
Like
the
a
window's
little
open.
window?
We have it out there pretty strong, but yeah, we only get about 5% of the parent response. Staff and students we get a lot, but the parent response rate is a little smaller.
We texted it last year too,
Yeah,
and we still didn't.
we'll keep trying.
Yeah. And what's most important is that the feedback. Like, we want to know. Those few people that even did fill it out will never even know what you guys said.
Yeah.
It's probably you guys.
Yeah.
So tell us what you put. No, I'm just kidding.
Screenshot it for us.
That's offered in both languages, right?
Yeah. Actually, I think the 5 essentials is offered in multiple languages because it's through the state.
Yeah, we have no control over its administration, but I believe you can pick up to 40 languages, I think. Yeah. So, okay, I'd like to move on to our future topics. I know, Ms. Sladek, you had one that you and I are both passionate about. I'd love to give you a little time to talk about, and then obviously any other ideas for our next meeting as well.
So last year we talked about collaborating with the local food bank, and a few administrators had the opportunity to go and meet with the man who runs the food bank here in West Chicago, I believe it is. And he mentioned a few opportunities that I think would be great for a good collaboration between them and us. One of those events is something actually that I believe NHS is participating in at Cantini, kind of like a drive-through. I don't know the extent of it.
Tours during Christmas, tours of the grounds.
Right. So the tours and then kind of helping out with that. But more than that would be using the high school as like a kind of a satellite of the food bank, and possibly getting parents as volunteers to help run that and making it like a drive-through service, because we have a great facility here to use for that. Make it possibly on a weekend, a Saturday morning or something, and get the message out, and any families in the community who need something don't have to make their way to the food bank. They can just come here to the high school. But yeah, something that we can think of doing on a monthly basis, and again, getting parents to help out and volunteer and participate and kind of have that strong connection between the school and then also with the community as well.
So that's something you're interested in, please see Ms. Sladek after this, talk to me, but we really would like to see some partnership. We have the most freezer space and drive-through space in the entire city of West Chicago. So I think it's a good resource that we can allow the food bank to use.
And, you know, we were thinking ideally to get something up by, you know, Christmas time, by winter break. You know, we were looking at, you know, if not a monthly thing, maybe during times when students are going to be out for a long period of time, when they won't be in school to get the meals that, you know, they're used to. So just certain different times of the year that it would benefit our families the most. So again, in collaboration with parents, coming up with, you know, that schedule, coming up with obviously parents to help run the drive-through service would be great. So any ideas you have, any thoughts, any of you who would like to help collaborate in the planning of it, yeah, let me know and we can get it
Any
going.
friends who want to help too?
And friends, yes, bring friends along. The more the merrier.
Other topics?
Students, do you guys have any topics you'd like to discuss? Next. If you guys think of something after today, you could.
I know I was at like the forum today during ninth period or something, and a lot of students there like had strong opinions on parking and stuff. Not me personally, but like a lot of people, like the Geneva parking lot, and just like how everything operates, and like they say it's dangerous at times and stuff. So like school parking for students especially, I think they want to address.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I feel like in Den it's different for a lot of people, but for like the times I've personally been in a Den class, I feel like there's not much motive or anything for people to do like the things or like topics that they want to cover. And I don't know if it's just my class, but like from the years that I've been here and I've had a Den, I just feel like a lot of people are just kind of on their phones, not really paying attention because there's no grade for the class, so people don't really, I don't know if it's just me, but maybe just talk about that and see like look into the Den stuff.
Good. Sounds good.
Lunch food. There's many complaints being either too expensive or not as good as you can think. So maybe we can work, and I know we are working with this. So maybe we can make like a meet in the middle and make like good food and affordable prices. And I mean, we do have the free lunch and that, so maybe be more forward and then really take action. And then maybe totally off topic, but implement like a better hygiene system, because there has been many times where I walk around the school and I get a stench of like liquids that are, so it's just, I don't know, maybe because I have a stingy nose and I do pick up stenches very quick, but I do walk around in the halls, so I'm like, oh, this is not good.
Might be right after a PE class. Okay.
I also had something that I wanted to add. Maybe like, I don't know if it's possible, but like maybe the school lunches and stuff, like if they could take card. Or have we talked about that?
Yeah, that's been a hot topic of conversation on all the dens I've visited.
Really?
And we are going to have a conversation with our food service company. The one caveat, the thing that I've told students and I do want to put out there, when you go to MasterCard, Visa, Discover, there's always a transaction fee, and the transaction fees get passed on to the consumer. So as a school, we don't have total control over the prices because it's an outside company. So that convenience would come at a cost. Not opposed to it. So it's something we are going to explore with the company, though. Yeah, I think we're at that point where Apple Pay and debit cards are, most of the teenagers have them at this point.
Is that something that where students can add funds to their account online? Is that available to student accounts as well? I know as teachers we're able to do that. Like if
Yeah, the kids can, but I think
It's not as immediate.
right.
Yeah.
If it has to
well,
be done
even
the
if
night
it's not,
before.
if the kids will show the ladies like the screenshot that they just added money, so I've seen that happen. But the kids can do it with a card, but if they're doing it with a card, they have to do it themselves, and so not all of our students have a working cell phone to do it themselves. So, and then if they bring cash, they can give the cash to the register and she can put it on their account. So it's just, I think it's more a matter of like teaching our kids all of the options. If you bring cash, this is how you can get that cash on your ID. If you have a card, here's how you can do it. Yeah, because we had some kids that were like, well, I have my mom's card, but my phone like only works on Wi-Fi and I can't do it that way. So then they have to go see somebody at door H and she can help them put it on there. So maybe just teaching the kids early on in the year the ways that they can get money onto their ID.
That'd be helpful because I don't really know how to do that, but I'd want to do that.
Okay.
And frankly, there are
Yes.
times I wish my debit card would work in the cafeteria, and I'd buy lunch too. It's good.
I can show you how to do it online.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
mymealtime.com.
Yeah, there's an app for that.
Jaden?
Maybe do like a slideshow where then teachers can show us,
Oh yeah.
because that would help us a
done.
lot.
That's a good idea.
Or even better, maybe like a flyer.
Yeah.
And post it in the cafeteria or around.
They had the flyers, but it's just in the cafeteria, and the girls were giving it to the students, but like the lines are so long, and the kids are like, I just want to get back to my seat, and so a lot of kids were not taking it. So I don't know that maybe if the flyers were passed out in Den, but I think if we were to have show the kids how to do it in Den and like
We could, like,
if
do
you
a
want to take it
video.
out right
yeah,
now.
do a video, like a
For
little
Fun
video.
Friday video.
I don't know how fun that is, but yeah, we can make a video.
Yes, say it.
Mr. Wolf is going to be busy.
We video, yes.
Just put like a big poster so showing you like the steps, like when you walk in, there's like that big empty wall space. We can use that, and like put a poster saying this is what you can do to have money in your account.
Or maybe like on the beams, like where the garbage cans are, if we put big posters up there.
And you can also email or send us any future topics as well. Anything else before we move for adjournment? Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
The bathrooms, a lot of people like talk about the vandalism in there. And then I was at the thing again today, and kids were complaining that security guards are in there, but then they're complaining about the vandalism. So like they want it in between. And then also the smoking that goes on in bathrooms too is pretty large. But they don't want a security guard in there because it's like weird, but then they don't want vandalism. So I don't know if that's an issue that could be fixed.
We'll put it on a future
Story of my
one.
life, Jack.
Yes. Yeah. It's I will say we've seen a big reduction this year from the previous year, but it does require a more adult presence in bathrooms. So it is, having our cake and eating it too. So, all right. Well, good. I'm gonna